Hi, I'm Brien Lundin of Gold Newsletter, and I am here at the Toronto Metals Investor Forum. I have the great pleasure of having Bart Jaworski with me with Group 11 Minerals, or Metals, is it, right? Yes.
Close enough. Resources.
Resources.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
All metals.
But this is a company that, Bart, I've been looking at and watching for 3, 4, 5 years or something like that, because you were in the right place, in the right neighborhood, in Ireland of all places, which a lot of people find interesting. But what's really fascinating about that is it is one of the great zinc and base metals endowments in the world. Really monster projects, and you were able to get a land position right smack dab in the middle of it all.
Yeah.
Importantly, and this is what intrigued me the first time we had talked, at the intersection, or the only real property position that had the intersection of these two major structural trends where previous discoveries had been made along those trends. So everything was right, and then we waited, and you hit it. You made the big discovery. So tell us a bit about that.
On hole 100, no less. So it took us 7 years and about 100 drill holes to make this discovery. We had all of Ireland staked up near them. I mean, we had so much ground position back in 2016, 2017. So it was a process of systematically going through it, drilling here, drilling there, seeing what lights up. And like you say, all of a sudden, we did have Ballywire etched out as a really interesting target back in, call it 2016, 2017. But it took a while for us to figure it out, get a heat map of where things are lighting up. And finally, on hole 100, we hit a 60-meter zone, 10 meters of 10% zinc and lead, and about 100 grams silver. And now fast forward, we got 44 holes into it, over 2.6 kilometers. And we're hitting some gangbuster results up to 30 meters of 10% zinc and lead, over 100 grams silver. We're punching way above our weight for some reason, typical relative to other typical Irish zinc deposits. And that we're getting, the Irish type zinc deposits typically get either no silver, maybe 30 grams, maybe 60 grams, and we're consistently getting 50 to 150 grams, up to 1,400 grams per ton. So we're getting this real kicker of a silver number in with our stuff. And I guess maybe as you were kind of alluding to, we are not in the middle of the wilderness somewhere with no other deposits found. We're here with tons of infrastructure and a discovery that was made by Xstrata, Noranda, and now Glencore, called Palace Green, and it's 45 million tons of 8.4%. We have a deposit butting up against there. It's called Stone Park, 5 million tons of 11.3% zinc and lead. And that's only 20 kilometers away. So within that, within a 10-kilometer radius, we have some real interesting situations going on, which obviously feeds into what could be happening here fast forward 10 years from now.
Yeah, because you don't have to replace that infrastructure, and specifically mining infrastructure, if you're within trucking distance of existing deposits that may be at somewhere in their lifespan but need more ore. But one thing that hit me when you were saying that is 100th hole. It speaks to the technical and management team and backing that you have. You have some extraordinary investors. And this isn't the key point I want to make, but I just want to mention extraordinary investors and board members behind the company. So this is not a undercapitalized company that's really working at the limits of its technical expertise. You have smart people who realize its potential and have backed the company.
Yeah, we've got Glencore and Michael Gentile, who are our number one, number two shareholders, and they've been fantastic. Glencore's been a shareholder of ours since 2019. Michael has been a number two shareholder since 2020. So call it 4 or 5 years now, and he only recently decided to step on the board. He said, "Look,"
which is not something he normally does.
Yeah, he's quite selective, and he's got a stable of companies. I think we're one of his top positions, but it's very rarely you see him actually step on the board. So that's fantastic. We're not the only ones, mind you, but maybe a handful of companies that he's actually stepped on the board with. And he really brings a lot of gravitas in terms of just the following, the capital markets understanding, not only macro, but down to the levels, scale of deposit scale, property scale. So he's a great guy to have on board, and he brings a lot of following. And that's really helped us along the way. And we've had supporters along the way in our journey. over the last, call it 9 years now, since we started the company in 2015, that have helped us. So, as an opportunity to thank everybody that supported us along the way, thank you very much for that, because it has come out, and this is where we are today. And hopefully we can take it to the next level over the next couple of years.
And you have, it's important to note 2 points I want to make. One is you have made a discovery, but considering the potential value of that discovery, the market capitalization, the share price really hasn't moved commensurate to it. And the other thing is the upside potential of that. Let's talk about that first. You had a few holes into Ballywire and weren't quite getting what you wanted, or didn't really make the discovery, but you figured it out. And once you had the discovery hole, you started figuring out the direction of the mineralization, what the kind of structures and geology you were looking for, and then you just started following it. And were so confident in what you were following that you started doing step outs of hundreds of meters. Now that had to be a little nerve-wracking, but you had that level of confidence.
Well, see, it's a well-behaved discovery, well-behaved system so far. So, and what I mean by that is
consistent.
Yeah, I mean, there's many different discoveries. You have a beautiful hole, and then you step out 20 meters, and it's gone. What happened to it? It could be folded, it could be faulted. It could be in many different horizons. It could be vertical, horizontal. So there's all these different parameters as to how this mineralization, the geometry of it can really fall. So now, if you look at Ballywire, one consistent horizon, generally at the base of the wall, Sortian limestone. It's a textbook Irish type zinc deposit. And once we sort of zeroed in, lasered in on the trend, we just follow the trend, and the trend is our friend, and has been basically for now essentially 1.6 kilometers.
And the potential trend is how long?
6 kilometers.
Wow.
Yeah.
So much upside.
Yeah, a lot. We have basically a 6 kilometer trend defined by 4 gravity high anomalies, of which only one has been drilled to date. And that's really where our key drilling has been done over 1.6 kilometers, but there's another drill hole, another kilometer away from that, which is getting 2.5 meters of 6%, which we'll have to go back to and connect somehow. But essentially, we have 2.6 kilometers of drilled, pierced, very strong mineralization. And again, 3 more gravity high anomalies along that trend yet to explore, plus a deeper copper horizon.
And from a geological standpoint, you've already made that discovery of similar deposits, similar mineralization to the monster deposits around you. So if you continue this, then you are going to prove something, if it continues, of similar size, and you already have all of the other aspects.
It's great to have analogies in the camps. Like Tara is obviously the number one discovery in Ireland ever to date. That's a 120 million ton deposit at 12%.
Let's put that in perspective. What are we talking about when I talk about world-class deposits in Ireland and in your specific area, and really butting up against some of your discoveries and projects? What kind of value are we talking about for those kinds of projects? Because a lot of investors can much more easily value, say, a gold or a silver discovery.
Yeah. Well, I guess the easiest comparison I can make, I guess, if you look at South 32's acquisition of Arizona Mining or Arizona Metals with the Taylor deposit. I mean, that was $1.5 to $2 billion acquisition, right? That was a 100 million ton zinc lead deposit, basically with silver in it. So that's kind of what we're playing for within Ireland. Certainly with Tara, that's, again, north of 100 million ton deposit at 12% zinc lead. That's a phenomenal, world-class, been mining for 50 years type of asset. Glencore's Palace Green will be the next one that's kind of in that realm of scale, because that's 45 million tons of 8.4%. Right beside that, we have a 5 million ton deposit. And then we have Lachine and Galmoy, which were, 10 to 20 million ton deposits, but very rich, very punchy in grade. And I think especially Lachine spat out about 1.5 billion in free cash flow. So, that's what we're striving for. That's our vision. That's our goal, to hopefully find one of those. And again, we're in the geological framework that produce those deposits. Hopefully Ballywire has, obviously in that frame of thinking, has a chance to hopefully become that with more drilling. So that's what we're crossing our fingers on.
That's the kind of upside we're talking about then. And these are all 100% owned?
Ballywire is 100% owned. We do have a joint. We have our central ground where we have the deposit, where we have 78% on.
Okay.
On the Stone Park deposit, but our discovery is 100%.
Now, very briefly, I want to touch on the potential new kind of discovery you're looking at with the copper intercepts at depth.
Yeah, so we're getting these kicker 1% up to 6% values in copper. We're getting up to hundreds to even over 1,000 grams per ton silver, and we're finding more and more these pierce points where they're coming up these feeder structures, and we know that they're coming from lower down, and that's on one hand, one data point. On the other hand, we have basically the knowledge of the stratigraphy of the area, which is well known. And about 100 meters down from our discovery horizon, we know there's the lower limestone shale, which just happens to host 3 copper silver deposits in our neck of the woods. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is within 5, 10, and 45 kilometers away from us is that lower limestone shale, which hosts the remnants of these copper silver systems. They've been partially eroded off. They probably had a zinc deposit on top of them at one stage. Here at Ballywire, we have it preserved. Yeah. We have a zinc system preserved, and if we're, as our thinking goes, we should have a preserved copper silver system underneath it, just like the other ones nearby in the same horizon. Because if it is there, it's going to be well preserved, obviously, because it's underneath us still.
So that's 100 meters. So that's bonus potential to what you've already discovered.
That would be the icing on the cake, yeah. And obviously, the audience for copper is multitudes bigger than the audience for zinc. So I think if we start getting any joy on the copper side, we'll see a whole new audience to the story. So
summing up the story, we have a discovery that is not yet appreciated in the market. You know what you have. You know where to find it along trend, and you're exploring that trend. So lots of upside. Bart, thank you so much for sharing the story with us.
Appreciate it.